Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part two of All That Glitters: Choices, Obsession, and Balance. Before we begin, Jen is going to sing for us here just to set our intention for part two of the conversation we began last week. We want to thank you all so much for listening, and here's Jen for you.
Chum 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 So, the next few minutes you will probably recognize from the end of last week's episode, but we wanted to make sure and jog your memory of what we were talking about before things continue. So, we've shortened this version down a little bit so that it'll just help you to remember where we were, what we were talking about, and then it'll just continue immediately into this week's. It's like it's raised the bar of what's possible, but I need to put it back in the context of Omnivara and what I came here to do and not get distracted with the glittery, glistening, very attractive kind of energy, because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that is going to benefit what I'm doing, but just the idea of going beyond what I thought was possible could be.
And he says that right here: anything can be singer, anything. The advent of the chimera is an opening to possibility. So he's agreeing with that sentiment, that feeling you have of, oh my gosh, this might push me beyond the boundaries of what I thought it was possible for me to do. I think what he's saying here, though, is now when you pick your teachers, you now know even more about your work and who you are. So, what process will you go through to see if their ideas are going to raise you to the next level or open doors of possibility? How will you feel them out? How will you know if, with all of the things that you are doing, it is going to be an equal exchange where you are going to get as much from it as you give? And it's an interesting idea for myself as well, because I tend to chase every impulse that comes across me. Ooh, that looks fun. Let's make that. Ooh, that looks great. Let's do that. And what I'm having to do now is sit down and say, I now know what my work is supposed to be. I know who I'm supposed to speak for. There are things he wants me to do and experiences he wants me to have. And then from those experiences, pass it on to others. How do I reach out and know, yes, this is what needs to happen next? My impulse is to go, I'm the only one in this, I'll amuse myself. And now I'm going to have to sit and go, wait, I am now not just me. I also have to keep in mind the work that I was put here to do. How am I going to discern whether this next beautiful, sparkly thing is actually the tool I need or a beautiful, sparkly thing? But it really is. And it's hard to navigate the further into this we get as our community gets bigger and the opportunities we have become more and more. And the demands on our time grow. And there's so many people that we want to reach out to and interact with and help. How do we determine what is the best path forward for the work that we want to do? I don't know the answer to that, but he certainly posed a lot of interesting questions.
I would be really interested in what he does have in the way of ideas for that. And I mean, I think certainly one of the things I already know for sure for myself and probably for a lot of people is there's that initial rush of excitement that comes with a host of pretty high vibration beings that are going, yes, 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 we want to teach you, we want to do this, work with us, work with us. It's hard to go, okay, I'm just going to step out of that energy that feels like very fast flowing water and go, I'm just going to sit on the banks here for a minute and take a breath. I know for me, there's certainly an element of needing to step out of that intensity, hold my stones, sit with crone and go, okay, I need to breathe and I need to ground and see how I feel after I've grounded and I've slept and I've connected, and then maybe put my foot back in. And it's interesting because every time I put my toe back in this water, I am back in the massive, fast flowing stream of it again. And maybe some of it is a sort of stepping in and out of it and going, okay, when I'm in that grounded place, what is it that resonates? What is it about this that I feel like I don't have or I want, and why do I want it? You know, I realize that some of it is a sense of, especially the course that I was wanting to take. This is an aspect of my work that I have felt called to incorporate as a part of my identity. And oh my gosh, they have a whole course called that, and I don't know those things. If I want to own that, I have to take that course. But is that really true? And really analyze the feeling that if I'm going to really be who I want to be, I have to learn something different, which is that imposter syndrome sort of thing of I still don't know enough. So I need to chase after that. And then there's this level of confidence with which everything is presented for the course that kind of goes, well, I mean, if they're that sure, then maybe there's something they have that I don't have. So it seems like some of the solution would be stepping out of it and getting grounded and then looking at what is it about it that's exciting. And once I've sorted out the imposter syndrome stuff, once I've realized, yeah, okay, this is because I feel like maybe they're better than I am and I'm not good enough, then go, okay, but is there a knowledge or a skill set that they're offering that would be beneficial? And then that seems like
And then that's when you
a
move.
thing
Yeah.
to pursue.
And this goes back to the first thing he was talking about, obsession. The idea that when we are obsessed with something or when we're excited, even just excited about something, a lot of times we're excited about our perception of what it is and not what it actually is. Probably everybody listening has dated somebody that the idea of them was fantastic. The actual dating of them, not so much. Because when we have this idea about something, whether it be a product we're going to get that's going to solve our problem, or that haircut that's going to make us look different, or that relationship that we're in, there's our ideas of what it will be like, and we get very into that idea. But the reality is often different. And so the fact that Samael's telling us we can navigate this by saying, hang on, before I just reach for that thing or that person or that experience, what is it in my concept? What are the thoughts I'm having about it that show what needs do I hope it will meet? Do I hope it will satisfy a difficulty that I have to deal with now? Do I hope that I will be less lonely? Do I hope that I will learn something that I've been looking for a long time? Do I hope that I will be part of a community that I've never had the opportunity to be part of before? What are the things that I'm looking for? And then after taking off the sparkle and the shine, looking and saying, is this the best place for my need to be met? If I look past the impulse, because obsession very much is a series of impulses. It's those intrusive thoughts coming in that say, this could be better if I did X. And then sometimes we're shoring up those X's after the fact. Yeah, it's just a really interesting thing to me. And I guess it is a wise thing to do to stop and say, I want, but why do I want?
Yeah. I think there's a lot in there. And I was thinking, it's funny that you were saying, is it really going to be all the things that I want it to be or that I think that it is? And it's funny because when I showed the website to Keith last night and he was reading it, he was like, it seems to me you do a lot of this stuff already. And I'm like, what? But he was like, really, a lot of it. I feel like you're doing that. But it was something that I wasn't able to see quite as clearly. Like to him, it was so obvious. And to me, I'm like, am I, do I already do that and I'm just not seeing it? Well, yeah, I guess if I read it a little differently and then look more into it, yeah, they're just maybe using different words and they're saying it a little bit differently.
I think to tell you a little story about our own podcast. So, full disclosure, I went ahead and published this week's podcast early. Once it was ready, I just went go. It was Wednesday, and we usually don't release till Thursday, but I just went, let's do it because I know for a fact that we have certain listeners who always jump right on as soon as we release. And I know that a bunch of them also have jobs or things where they drive around a lot. And I thought, they're going to be waiting for something to listen to. Let's just, happy holidays, folks. Let's put it out a day early. So, of course, we immediately get our hardcore ones who are driving for hours each day and are like, oh, thank goodness there's something to listen to. And one of those was our dear Jennifer Gerlando, who, from our last episode, we talked about the different Jennifers. And while you were describing her in that podcast, you said she's the poet and the death worker and blah, 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 blah. And she wrote to me and she said something along the lines of when she heard you say she's the poet, she teared up and she doesn't think she's ever not going to tear up. Now,
Oh,
this is a woman who writes poetry, runs poetry salons, has had pieces of her poetry published, and met with me like last week, I think it was, to talk about putting out her first volume of poetry and how that would go. She is a poet. She is undeniably a poet. Everyone around her would not argue that she is a poet. But hearing somebody say that makes her tear up because somewhere in part of her mind, she's still becoming a poet, even though she's already a poet to all of us. And I think that's what you were seeing yesterday when you were talking to Keith was in part of your mind, you're still a beginner when you're so not. And you already know a lot of these things, and it's obvious to us. I do the same thing all the where I will say, man, I hope to reach as many people as X and Y pagan teacher does. And Vince goes, how many classes teaching right now? With how many students? How many website hits are you getting? I think you're probably in the ballpark. But to me, we get stuck in this part of it's imposter syndrome. But the other part of it is we're so dedicated to learning that we don't ever feel like we've learned enough to arrive.
Yeah, it's that becoming. And I think you used
Yes,
that word, or that she felt like she was still becoming. And it is, I think, because our focus is so much on the becoming and the continual evolving,
right.
that because there isn't a platform that you get to where you're like, ta-da, I'm here, it's hard to have a sense of the spectrum of, okay, we will always be becoming, but at what point are we
Yes.
being that we want to be? I think we are always setting that bar higher and higher. It's like from that vantage point, we can see, oh my gosh, there are more rungs. And then we want to get to those. And as we climb up higher, we're like, oh my goodness, there's a whole nother set of stairs. Like,
Yeah. I go to a class and I ask people, how long have you been practicing? And the number of people who say, well, I'm just starting off on my pagan path. And I say, wonderful. How long have you been seeking? And they go, 14 years. Okay. If you've been a dentist for 14 years, you're a dentist. If you've been a doctor for 14 years, you're a doctor. If you've been a teacher for 14 years, you're a teacher. The difference is that there's someone handing you a certificate that says, woohoo, you passed this level. If you've been a spiritual seeker for 14 years on a pagan path, you're a pagan. Not only that, you're an experienced one, right? Like if you've been organizing in your community for 14 years, there aren't certificates for all these things. And I think that's part of the issue is that we often have been trained to look for the validation of who and what we are in the degrees and certificates that we are being given by other people. And to be able to point and say, look, I did this. Here's the thing, you can take healing classes. You can become an energetic healer. But there's a huge difference between someone who actually lives it and embodies it and moves energy and understands it and heals people and someone who just got the certificate. As we've seen it a million times, go to college for a degree and still not know what the heck you're talking about. We have this idea that someone else has to take the fairy wand and go, bing, you are now valid. A lot of us are not, we can be becoming and have arrived at the same time. And that kind of flies in the face of the sort of hierarchy of how things are structured in most of our daily lives. You go to medical school, you're a medical student, then you've got your degree, but then you are on the low man on the totem pole. And there's always that. I want to have my boss's job. I want to have more experience. I want to be higher up in the ranking. But there just aren't certificates for a lot of these things unless we give them to ourselves.
yeah, maybe we need to make up our own certificate for ourselves. It's
Yes.
like, what is it that I want it to say? What is it I really wanted to say? And then be like, I'm making myself a certificate for it, just that I can look at and go, yeah, you have done that. That's who you are now.
Yes.
Like
Because
some sort of virtual certificate.
I
Or
think
shoot,
of
an actual type it out certificate. I
type
probably
it
need
out
an
and put it
actual
on the
type it out
wall.
certificate.
Jennifer Taylor is the keeper of Omnivara. She is a gifted healer. She is a channel for angels and other beings. She is a talented composer and musician and dancer. She has raised a family in the face of adversity and is a wonderful mother. She is a divine being that walks beyond definition in this world. She is eternal. She is love, and one of the things that I find is a lot of times I do sign up for a class of someone who's supposed to be more experienced than me. And then I go and I sit in the class and I think, well, I knew that. I didn't use those terms. But I knew that. But sometimes they give me a different perspective that I hadn't thought of. Or they challenge something that I needed to think about and say, no, no, I'm going to hold on to that. Or no, I'm not. And so going to these other teachers and classes and things are wonderful in that it gives you the opportunity to see things from lots of other perspectives. But a lot of our wisdom has already arrived and we don't realize it.
Yeah, I think that, thank you, by the way, for the incredibly beautiful things that you said. And I realized in that, I was like, we need to give each other certificates because we see in each other where we have arrived more easily. Like, it's the whole idea of the needing of the certificate is that it's, you're not seeing, is that it's hard to see that in yourself,
Yes, yes.
because our certificate for Jennifer Gerlando, what 100% like poet is the number one thing that I would have immediately come to mind. And for her to hear that, I think we're going to have to exchange certificates. And I think that would be a really cool thing for people to do for each other. When you really know the gifts and the talents of somebody, be like, hey, let's make up certificates for each other
So
so
great.
that we
Just to,
can look at and read and go, this is an official thing. You can print out a certificate on anything and
yeah.
then have that. Maybe that can be part of this year's thing of making those for each other and then reading them and looking at them every day and finding the truth in that and letting it illuminate the truth in that within ourselves.
So first off, I have these really cool gold seals now that look like they go on
Ooh,
certificates
nice.
that have an eye because for Samael, and they have the moon phases over top of the eye. And I've been using them on all kinds of stuff. Get yourself some fancy gold stickers. But I think what I need to do is jump on PixArt or whatever and make a certificate that says, you have arrived, and then just has lines underneath it and a place for a signature. I will do this over the next couple of days. If anybody wants one for a friend, just email me at tavabaird@gmail.com and just put certificate or you have arrived in the subject line. And I will just send you a download that you can print out on your computer and sign it and list in there what your friend or loved one has achieved. And then perhaps for 2026, instead of starting with New Year's resolutions, we instead start with a celebration of what they have already achieved and who they already are. And you give them an envelope with a certificate that says, you have arrived. Stand in your own power, baby, and roar.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think that sounds fantastic. And on the longs or along the lines of sounds, I feel like it is time to sing again.
Yes, yes, very much.
And goodness knows what will come of the editing of the last, because there was really very little singing and a lot of silence.
I don't know if you
Um,
realized it, but you were speaking out loud.
I did start, finally, I did start speaking out loud because I thought I'm not going to remember what's being said if I don't start speaking out loud. That's going to be an editing fun
Or just leave it in the
challenge.
way it is. That might be fun too.
Yeah, maybe. And in the middle of it, I had this sense of people driving, and I was like, it's okay. Just don't worry about that right now. We can always edit it out. People don't have to sit
Always
here and
edit
just
it out.
listen to like you upside down silent.
We can always edit. All
Okay,
right.
so for this song, last time I turned and I faced those that I was hearing to see. And after all that Samael has said, I'm thinking I'm going to turn to face myself
Yeah.
and see what comes through when I do that.
What arrives?
Yes, exactly. See what arrives. When I think about what he said, it's like, who do I hope to find when I turn around? Because he was saying, who do you hope is there? And what do you hope that they have for you?
As if you know
So,
that, then you know who to invoke, you know who to ask for, you know who to say, this is the next thing of what I need. I hope that a guide who will take me to this understanding or this perspective, or a guide who will direct me to a particular teacher or program that I need, or who
yep.
will advise me on these things. This is what I hope for as I sit and weigh my options.
So I'm going to turn and face myself, the version of myself who really knows who I am, where I am, and where I am headed, and the best way for me to get there.
That sounds wonderful.
And I will invite her to sing through me.
That was
So,
absolutely lovely. Thank you so much. Oh,
yeah, thank you. It was really good for me. There was a lot of clarity in that.
good. Well, this must be the day of you sing of balance and clarity, and Samael speaks of the opposite. Because buckle in, kids, for 2026. Here is what Samael has to say. The mystery of the human life is a grand one. Humans believe that they can predict, plan what they will say when the inevitable happens. But inevitable is a fantasy. There is something coming, my friends, something you cannot guess. Even angels, such as I, read signs but cannot pinpoint the details. Shifting, moving, confusion, possibility. While this state of not knowing is uncomfortable, remember this. As long as there is possibility, there is hope. Certain walls cannot help but fall now. Look ahead. Be as ready as you can be. Do not become too married to your habits, for you will need to build balance. Seek out how to do that together. In times of heightened uncertainty, be a blessing to one another. I already felt like 2025 was kind of bonkers. Here
Wow.
comes 2026, apparently a time of great change. And he is right, no matter how many things we think we know, and no matter how many plans we make. When we worry about things, we always think, well, I have to worry about this because this is going to happen. And it never, ever, ever happens the way we predicted. There's always something out of left field that comes in and changes everything. Learning how to dwell in possibility is something that a lot of faiths have encouraged us to do over the centuries. And it sounds like that's going to be a big theme for us. Balance and get comfortable dwelling in possibility because possibility is hope.
Yeah, I have heard that from a lot of sources, astrologers to other energy workers and other people working in these kinds of realms and working with the confluence of angels and or our confluence of archangels, and all of these different groups have said the same kind of thing, that there is really big change coming, but that at the heart of all that, our job as people who see beyond the veil, that see beyond the outer, the obvious, the chaos, our job is to the hold the knowledge and the faith that something better lies beyond it, and that our job is to anchor the the light and the hope and the joy and the love and the sacred darkness, and to anchor that kind of compassion and balance on the planet, and to hold the space of that, and to look beyond or look away from what seems like chaos on the surface, because the things that have been serving, that things that haven't really served everyone for so long, they need to fall in order for something that does serve everyone in a different way to be built. But that I've been continually, and I've been in conversations with family members and other people about we really need to, more than ever, measure the amount of external stuff that we take in. And when we see the news, when we see these things, to immediately reset ourselves to going, my job is to hold the balance, hold my balance. The part that I can control is my energy, and that not to underestimate the power of lots of individuals holding themselves in balance, in being grounded and compassionate and holding themselves in balance. And that part of getting through all of this and part of affecting the outcome on the other side is how many of us can hold that space amidst the necessary breakdown of things. And I'm definitely interested in if Samael agrees with that stance, but that has been kind of something across the board that I've seen, regardless of how everybody says to do that, that our job is to hold the faith and the knowledge that there is goodness and that there is love and that there is compassion, and to keep holding those spaces and anchoring them here on earth during this time.
I completely agree with you. When big things fall, they often make waves. And sometimes we think that we're just at the beginning of a swell or that we're drowning in the middle of the wave. But in fact, what we need to do at this time is build boats and pull each other in and ride those waves out together, because we will come out the other side. And there is going to be, I mean, we already feel the flood of over information that pours into our lives. Just like we were talking about earlier, we don't want to become junkies to ever changing opinions and information, because there are lots of things out there in our society right now, social media and 24-hour news cycles, but literally they're designed to keep us engaged. And so they just keep getting louder and louder, and they never relent. Look to the people around you, build a boat, pull them in, shut off the outside voices, because a lot of those voices are on their way out, and we're going to look at them in a certain amount of time and say, I can't believe that held any sway. We're going to learn from the experience, but get ready to ride the waves, kids. Surf's up. And we just want you all to know out there who are listening that we've made a tidy little boat here at Mystical Musings, and any of you that want to get in with us and keep your attention on community and growth and introspection and magic, we're here. We're here for you.
Yeah, come on in. One of the things it strikes me as really interesting that in the last podcast, Samael was talking, and it's possible it was before that because it was all one big conversation for the two of us. But he was talking about the power of words and what we say and how we can create or destroy with our words. And so, the one thing I wanted to add to what you were just saying, which I fully agree with, is to really consciously become more and more aware of the words that we say about what's happening in the world, about what's happening around us, and be conscious creators with our words so that we speak what we want to create as opposed to perpetuating and giving energy and strength to that which we are seeing that we don't want more of, that we don't want to continue, but we keep alive and feed with our words and our repetition of it and the strength and the conviction that comes in that, especially when we become scared and worried and overwhelmed by those things. But the more we can start using, it's a beautiful thing that words have power because we can then consciously create with them.
Yes. What we call ourselves is important, and what we call others is important. And as we talked about balance, we want to choose as many words that bring people balance as we possibly can. Because when things do make waves, when things fall, when people speak to destroy or to gain power, we have to be the balance for that. We have to counteract that. We have to be the measured, wise tone. And that's how we're going to do. That's how the wise do not need to shout to make themselves heard. And so, in speaking with conviction that we are on a path of unity and acceptance and thoughtfulness, and that we seek knowledge and understanding, we can do a tremendous amount of good in the world.
Absolutely. And I keep saying one last thing. One other last thing. It dawned on me too that when you think of something coming and there's the idea of trying to prepare and there tends to be a fear, maybe as a counter to that, given that what Samael is saying that is that no amount of worry or can really change or really prepare that. What we can do is sort of prepare the things that we know balance us. You know,
Yes.
start gathering together your little resource kit of the things that help to bring you into balance. So, and it's easier to do that when you are in a more balanced, things are seeming like they're more okay kind of place. And so, if during that time you go, okay, this piece of music, when I listen to this, it helps me calm down. These crystals or this stone or this poppet or this doll or this pillow, when I hold it, I feel more grounded. This blanket that my grandmother made always makes me feel more like held and like there are other people around. Gather together more of those things and start using them now. And then also, the more of those things that you can let become a habit and a part of your daily life, it'll be easier to use them. You know, when the waves come, if you already know how to build a boat, if you already have a boat that, you know, that maybe you have some rations in, if you already have something to climb into, it's a lot easier than to start going, oh my goodness, how do I even find some wood? How do I find those things? If you can start building that little nest for yourself now in terms of the things that help to bring you balance or practices that bring you balance, whether it's Reiki or magical practices or just doing things for yourself, nourishing food, like finding old recipes that just feel like a safe home kind of thing. Whatever those things are, maybe start leaning into them now so that you have all those things to depend on to help to bring balance when it's a little more challenging to do that.
I completely agree with you. I actually met a therapist once who had this great idea that's right along the lines of what you said. The therapist said that when we are, change of any kind is hard, whether it's for the good or for the ill, it's hard. We're humans, we are designed to look for patterns. That's our job here, is to look for patterns and try to make sense of things around us. And so when we can't discern a pattern, we start to feel like things are chaotic and it affects us energetically. And so the therapist said, get together a list of things that soothe you, that make you feel joy. And don't just think you'll remember them in the moment because you won't when you're in distress. Write them down and stick it on your refrigerator. And then when you are having that bad day or you've gotten offline and you feel like you're in a state of chaos, you can say, whoa, I need to find my boat. And there it will already be written for you on the refrigerator. Simple things. I'm going to call up a friend. I'm going to watch a funny movie. I'm going to go get a chocolate chip cookie. I'm going to take a nap, whatever it is. Write them down, and then you can go straight for it and pick one and say, I will do this. And that gets you in your boat with your rations, gets you to a place of more balance so that then you can make judgments wisely. Because when you're in that feeling of chaos, that feeling that there is no pattern and that the whole world is upside down, and you start to have that fight or flight, it's hard to remember the things that make give you comfort. And the other thing to remember is that Samael says walls will fall. And that idea is very intimidating. Oh no, there's going to be change, there's going to be destruction. But we also have to remember is that when once the walls tumble, we get to decide what is built next. We get to decide, are we putting in cornerstones or a spiral? What kind of a labyrinth do we want to greet us? Will there be copper there? Will there be song? Will there be plants? Will it be a plant and an animal fused together in some sort of odd way? We get to decide. And so, one of the things that is also wonderful about this human life is the gift of what comes next. And so, as we go into 2026, we wish you a wonderful what comes next, a wonderful sense of hope and possibility. We want you to write down all of the things that will balance you and stick it to your refrigerator so you're ready if some chaos does come in. But just remember that eventually, even as things tumble, eventually there is a settling.
Yes. And often some of the biggest changes, and I know in our personal life, the things that seem like they were the biggest disasters and like all had fallen apart led to the biggest, most incredible changes beyond what seemed possible because those things happened, because those things fell apart. It made space for something so much more magnificent than we could have imagined. And yeah, I like that. Let's go
Yeah.
into it imagining and hope and what could be possible beyond it.
Yeah. We get to be here when the wall falls. And I'm sure we have listeners who are too young to remember this, but I remember being in college. I think it was college when the Berlin Wall came down.
Yeah.
And that was an established thing that had separated people and caused so much pain and heartache for so many years. And it was a destruction. It was a beautiful destruction that allowed families to find each other again and for a country to become whole.
Yeah. And so I know Tava and I are absolutely dedicated as well to furnishing as much to use for your boats as possible. And definitely part of what we will continue to do is create things that give you more resources, more ways of balancing, more ways of seeing your divinity and those of others, and continuing to support all of you and each other through everything that lies ahead.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week, folks. We look forward to seeing you again next week. But before we go, Jen is going to put a little song in here for you. It is a repeat of the grounding and centering song from last week's podcast, just to help bring you into alignment before you go back out into the world. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy.
Oh.